Hello, good morning. My name is Diego Felipe Riano. I'm 26 years old and I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I'm doing this video with the purpose of applying for the position of Teacher of Administration at the IWO International University. And in this demo class, I will be doing a presentation class of the Introduction to the Administration Science. So first of all, let me apologize because I was not able to put myself in an environment more similar to a classroom. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources available right now, but I think I managed to put together a presentation or a demonstration class that is similar to what you would see in a normal class with me. So I'll try to, act the interaction with the students in order to make this class more realistic. I'm gonna try to be very brief what I try to explain. Just want you to see how the class goes in general aspects, so I just try not to stop so much, but I'll also try to make you see how would the interaction with the students work. So without further ado, I will start the class. Okay, so welcome to the Introduction to the Administration. So today the class is going to be split in 7 parts. I don't think we will be able to see them all today, but it's very important for all of you to see that we're gonna see these parts. Also about these slides, don't worry so much about just writing everything you see in the presentation, because I already emailed you this presentation. I want you to please read and focus on what I'm gonna say, and later you can use this presentation as a guide for the class, but also remember to read and write what you hear in class. Read the book and write what you hear in class, because it's very important, not only the slides. Okay, so let's continue with the Introduction to the Administration part 1.1, definition and purpose. So please, could you tell me, what do you think is administration? How would you define administration? Do we have maybe some volunteer, please? On the back? Yes, it's a way to organize a project. It's an interesting definition. It's not bad. I need something more elaborate, please. Some volunteer, please. Over there. Yes. It's put together some resources in order to achieve a purpose. Okay, it's very good. But let's put it together in a more technical way. Okay, let's go. It's the process of planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Okay, let's stop here for a moment. In order to have a good management, you need to put together some plans, organize those plans, direct those plans, and give some control to it. Give it some following towards our project, right? We're gonna go in deep into the definition further just in a moment, okay? We just want to remember these 4 steps: planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Very important. But what are we going to do with these steps? We're going to use resources and work activities, okay? Companies use different kind of resources. Some companies manage, or actually all companies need to manage their money, need to manage their staff, need to manage their time, need to manage their production, need to manage their stock. So it's very important for a company to use these 4 steps: planning, organizing, directing, and controlling, to manage their resources and their work activities. So what is a work activity? A work activity depends on the purpose of the company. It depends on the kind of company we're talking about. If it's a finance company, the work activity is going to be I don't know, like in a bank, collect the money and keep it safe for their customers. If it's like a car production, producing cars is going to be your work activity. So you need to organize, plan, direct, and control your resources in order to be efficient at your work activity. Okay, for the purpose of achieving the organization's objectives or goals. Okay, this is very important. Objectives or goals. If a company doesn't have very clear their objectives or goals, it's going to be most likely inefficient. So all the organization, all the planning, and all the decision making, it's in order to achieve those objectives or goals. Sometimes managers know how to lead a company, but maybe their way doesn't go specific with the goals of the company. Okay, we're gonna go also in deep with this definition further, but also the objectives and goals are very important. Okay, in an effective and efficient manner. Effective means that all your ways, all your plans will actually produce results, and the results are the goals and objectives. Okay, so we need to be effective. And finally, efficient. Efficient means that we're gonna use the resources we have in an as the name says, in an efficient way. We need to maximize the use of our resources, minimize the cost, and yes, just use our resources in the most efficient way. Okay, but let's go in deep. We're gonna divide this definition in 5 parts so we will understand it better. So let's start with the administration process. The administration process is just the keystone of the administration, because we have this part: planning, direction, organization, and controlling. So what do we do in planning? In planning, actually, we set our goals, we set our objectives, we tell what's the way we want to reach those objectives. We say how do we gonna go there, who's responsible for what, who's gonna take the decisions, how are we gonna manage our money, how are we gonna manage our budget. In the planning, we just put in paper what do we want, how do we want to do it. Okay, then we go to the organization. We need to split all the resources, all the responsibilities in order to make this plan work, right? So for example, we need to, if we have a financial goal, we need a financial area that's going to be in charge of achieving these financial objectives. So we need a financial manager in charge of financial team that is going to reach these financial objectives. We need a marketing, we need to do sales, so we need to also be responsible for this. So we need to divide all those plans, split it into different cells to achieve objectives, and we need to know who's going to be responsible for those. So we need to set heads for those different areas. We need to organize ourselves. Next step will be direction. We need to make all the organization, all the team members, all the procedures, all the efforts enroll to achieve the objectives. We need to, all the company know what's the objective and all the efforts be in order to achieve the objectives. If we are not doing something that is going to lead us to achieve those objectives, we are missing one point in the direction. We need to go all in the same direction. And following, we need the control. So after following the operations, we need to control. We need to know if what we're doing is actually leading to your objectives. After all the process of planning direction, you need to control. You need to see, oh, okay, is this process actually leading me to achieve my objectives? Is this department actually doing a good job with this? Are we really getting closer to our objective? To the control, we're going to use different measurements, different indicators to actually know if we are closer to this. We're going to go again deeper with this once we get into the administration process in deep. We're just going to introduce it here. Okay? So we talk about 5 parts. This is the first part. We're going to go quickly with the following 4. Okay? Okay, I need a volunteer, so please help me read this second step. Okay? Use of resources. I'm gonna read it myself then because we don't have students, right? So I'm gonna read it myself. It refers to the use of the different type of resources that the organization has: human, financial, material, and information. Okay, so as we said in the definition of administration, different companies they're gonna have different kind of resources for their operations. As the definition says it, you have human resources, your staff, you're gonna need to use it properly in order to achieve your objectives. You have financial resources, you're gonna need the money, you're gonna use different financial financial tools in order to achieve your objectives. Again, you need the materials. The materials are the materials you use to produce your objective, or in order to offer the service. You need to be able to manage those materials in a proper way. Information and knowledge is not the definition, but knowledge is very important. You need to manage that knowledge in order, again, to achieve to your objectives. And there is one that is very important. Not many people mention it, not many books mention it, but I think it's the most important, and it's your time. You need to manage your time. It's the most scarce of your resources, so you need to manage your time. Okay? Now I need another volunteer to read the third point. Work activities. There are the set of operations or tasks that are carried out in the organization and that, like the resources, are indispensable for the achievement of the established objectives. So we talk about like having the materials to produce our products and then reach our objective. So the work activities is gonna be, for example, if you are a car producer, produce a car is gonna be your work activity. So you need to be able to manage this task in a proper way that will be in line with your objectives. Okay? Sometimes we're gonna produce more. If you produce more or you produce less, maybe you will produce more, but that's not in line with the objectives. You're gonna ask yourself, like, why producing more is not gonna be in line with your objectives. There are different reasons for a company not to produce more, but we're gonna just leave it there here. We're gonna see that eventually in a future class. So you just need to have your production or your service offer, it depends on which kind of company you are, that we're also gonna see that in further classes. It's gonna be in line always with your objective. Number 4. Another volunteer to read, please. Over here, the first row. Yeah. Achievement of organizational objectives or goals. The entire process of planning, organizing, directing, and controlling the use of resources and carrying out activities is not carried out of random, of course, but for the purpose of achieving the organization's objectives or goal. As we said, we need to put all our resources, all our work activities in line with our organization's objective. All our efforts are in order to achieve those objectives. We're going to stop later after this slide in the objectives, because the objectives are very important. So yeah, we know. We need to focus on the objectives. If you're doing an effort that is not leading you to achieve your goals, you're wasting your resources and you're not being a good manager. Okay? So you need to always focus on your goals. Okay? Number 5. Efficiency and effectiveness. We already mentioned it before in the definition, but in essence, effectiveness is the achievement of objectives. All the methods you use as a manager, because not all managers think in the same way, they use different methodology. Okay? All these methods, whatever you do, is in order to achieve your objective. So if you're effective, you're efficient. If you're efficient, if you're effective, again, if you're effective, those methods lead to your objective, period. Efficiency is that you achieve your goal. So you need to achieve your goal. And effectiveness is, I'm confused. Effectiveness is achieving your goal. And efficiency is to use your resources in the best way in order to achieve your goal. Maximize the purpose of your resources and minimize the cost of your resources. Okay? Very good. Now, if there's no more questions, we're going to continue with the objective, because we already saw in just this introduction that we need to focus on the objective. Our main goal is to achieve the objective. So we were talking also about the objectives, okay? So many companies make the mistake of actually not focusing their operations into the objective. We have already mentioned about this, right? So in order to avoid this, we are gonna just give you 4 steps in order to define well your objective, so it's clear for all the organization to follow. Because one of the mistakes people or companies do or managers do is they don't set a clear objective for their goal. Okay, so when you state an objective, it has to state your goal. Okay, what you have to tell, what do you want, what is your field of action. Okay, what does it embrace, what does it state your goal, what's the extent of that goal. Okay, what is the definition of the action is like, what are you going to do in order to achieve the goal. What's the process, well, not the process itself, but what are you going to do to achieve your goal. Basically, you don't have the objective have to be also very short, or not very short, but at least not like a book. You have to be clear for all the members of the organization also. So you have to be very precise on what you're going to say, and also the orientation. So you have to give the direction again of what's the way to achieve this objective. What you're going to do, in which area, what's your goal, in which area, how are you going to do it, and what's the direction to do this. Also, you have to remember that this objective have to be clear and definable for all have to be clear and definable. What do you mean by definable? That we have to be able to quantify it and measure it. So the way to do this is by doing indicators, right? Index. So we could have like a performance index, production index, financial index. That of course depends on the goal of the company. If your goal is to be the one that produce the most, then you're gonna use index that prove that you are producing more. If your goal is to be financially stable, then you're gonna use financial index to prove that you're achieving your goal. Also, you have to have a realistic goal. Let's just change the aspect from a company for let's say a runner, an Olympic runner. And if you're gonna set your own goal, if you set your goal and you say that your goal is running faster, that's very ambiguous, right? You don't really have a way to say that you're running faster, or for how long, or what's the time you're gonna try to achieve, right? But if you set your goal that you're gonna run in a semi-professional, you want to achieve a semi-professional time in running the 200 meters, then you already have a goal, a defined action, you have a field of action, and you have an orientation, right? And you still can measure it by time and distance, right? Okay, so that's a way to set an objective. So if you want to be also realistic, I mean, if you have already set all these characteristics of the objective, you cannot say you're gonna just, I don't know, if you just start running, you cannot say that you want to break the record of the 200 meters, right? You have to be realistic. Of course, objectives can change in time. It doesn't mean that in the long run you will actually overcome all those difficulties and set a new record for the 200 meters. That's of course possible, but you need to be realistic and set goals according to your current capabilities and current resources in this case. Okay? And understood. It's very important that all the members of the company, all the organs of the company understand what's the objective, how do you want to achieve it, and what's your field of action, and what are the indicators, what are the index you need to achieve, right? That way the company will work, all the members of the company will work in order to achieve this objective. If you don't have clear that you want to have, let's say for example, your objective is to be again financially stable, then if your marketing department doesn't know that, doesn't have it clear, then it's gonna take some actions that are actually gonna be against achieving your objective. Maybe they're gonna be expending more in publicity, maybe they're gonna hire more personnel that they need. So all the members of the company have to have very clear what's the purpose of what's the objective of the company. Okay, so we're gonna finish part 1 here. We're gonna go to what's the definition, what is a company. Okay, so before reading, I have the definition already here, but can somebody tell me, what do you think it's a company? It's an effort to put resources together in order to achieve a goal. It's a very good definition. Thank you. Another volunteer. It's put together all the resources to create benefit. Okay, very good. We can read here what's the formal definition. A company is an entity made up by basically people. Well, in the future we don't know, maybe it's gonna be made up for computers, robots, we don't know. Aspirations, of course, we want something from a company. Achievements, material, goods, and technical and financial capacities, all of which allows it to dedicate itself to the production and transformation of products, that is if you're a production company, and or the provision of services if you're a service company, to satisfy needs and desires existing in a society in order to obtain a profit or benefit. So remember, a company, whatever it produces or whatever service it offers, is in order to satisfy the desires or needs of a society. Okay, sometimes companies satisfy an existing need, an existing desire of the society, or sometimes companies create a need in the society. For example, if we see before, there was not a need to have a portable phone in your pockets. There was no need for that. But then technology evolved and it was created the need to have a phone, to be connected, to be communicated at all time. Okay, so given time restrictions, we're gonna stop the class here. For next time, we're gonna see how we're gonna define a company by different kind of items. Okay, so if you have any question, please approach to me or write me an email after it, and we're going to continue. We're going to see each other next week. Okay, please look at your email in case there's some new information for you, and check again the book and the slides. Okay, with this I'm going to finish the class. I hope it's been enlightful for you. I hope you find it interesting. And again, I'm sorry because I was not able to put myself in a classroom with real people interacting with me. And this is just an introduction class, just for you to see more or less how do I communicate with students, more or less how do I lead the class. Of course, if we're going to have a full semester class, we're going to need to have different kind of interaction, different kind of class with the students. Maybe we're going to have work classes when we're going to have more communication within the students, more interaction with them, more I don't know, exercises with them in class, also homeworks, also exams. But in a demo class it's very hard to show all of that, right? But I hope this is good for you, and I will be very glad to hear for your response, and hopefully we will work together in the future. Thank you so much.